traveling explosive salesman was off ship and plying his wares on a bustling island. He had already sold 2 cartloads of explosives and was off on his 3rd round of sales. By his side was his trusted companion, Raspberry the monkey. Salesman didn't realize it, but he had slighted Raspberry earlier that day. When he accepted and ate an entire onion in front of Raspberry, the monkey was enraged and swore to itself to take revenge against his friend and the one offering the onion. The monkey got its chance. The salesman walked through the gate and up the steps to the porch of a home in town. Raspberry grabbed the reins of the horse pulling the cart and cracked them across the horse's back. Off they raced, straight back to the ship filled with explosives sitting in the harbor. Raspberry pulled horse and cart over the warming fire on the ship's deck. The terrified horse bolted, snapped its harness straps, and dove overboard, with Raspberry still holding the reins. Monkey and horse watched from deep underwater the magnificence of the fireball explosion. The ship was said to have shaken the ground on numerous neighboring islands with its intensity. The explosions continued as house after house had their recently delivered explosives ignite. The remains of the island is said to now have a very large, deep harbor surrounded by a tiny strip of land and has now become a turtle sanctuary.
Oh, yeah, all the monkeys, the neighboring Coldicots kept bringing their monkeys over here.
Yes, they did. They kept breeding them. We warned them that the monkeys were so angry, and they continued breeding them and bringing them here to this island.
Oh, yes, and there was a monkey that had his tail caught in the door.
Yes, poor monkey. You know that monkey was very unhappy. Now we tried to correct it. We did our best. That's all we can do, Robert. In this case, is a donated item. It is a real recent book, believed to be a spell book or have some sort of information that required a powerful spell or curse put on it. If you dare open this book, as the previous owner tried numerous times, you will go unconscious every time. The owner of the book had it examined by high-ranking experts, and it was deemed a horror. It has been secured here, so as not to continue to plague the ocean or the land. It is also thought to possibly be made of some sort of unusual hide, possibly human skin, only adding to its atrocity. We, of course, have no idea of the contents of the book, as no one has made it past opening it.
We did hear about a printer press that kind of did similar things.
There was a hungry printing press of some sort that hungered for humans. I don't know. It was somehow humans were being drawn into the printing press. It sounds like a horrendous story, but we don't have enough details on it, really. In this case is also a second book. That book, we have been sworn to secrecy not to open that book or show it to anyone. But whatever is in there terrified the original owner, and he did not want the words out in the lands. So we have secured it here so that no one may know the contents of that book either.
And also in that case, there's those ripped up junk cells.
Yeah, we destroyed those. They were not worth having. We ripped them down, tore them to bits. If you dared to put those cells on your ship, you were in trouble. They'd make your mutes not even listen to you anymore.
Oh, yes, I jumped off the wheel and went full speed with no sails opened.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
horrifying.
Yeah, it was terrible. You couldn't even leave the wheel. If you let go of the wheel, the ship would lurch forward, full steam ahead. A darkened cavern was the last place visited by those unfortunate enough to have run into the hogbat. Wayward explorers would stumble on their way into the cavern over the bones of those who came before. Known to have the insatiable hunger of a hog, coupled with the hunting prowess of a bat, the hogbat was a fearsome predator. Graced with both venomous fangs and a row of thick grinding teeth, could devour a human in 3 to 5 minutes. Some of its victims seemed to only be a snack, while others were only a dessert. If you're not sure where you would fit in this equation, we recommend prowling bone-laden caverns to find out. Keep your eyes to the skies as well, however, as there's no telling if this was the only hogbat in existence. The long owl displayed here derives its name from the two long crossing fangs and the long toes. Related to the owl, the sad eyes of this creature hide its true nature, a vicious killer. It hunts humans for sport. The large club-like feet behind the long fangs have toes on the bottom which can reach all the way around a human neck. Once latched on, it swings its head wildly from side to side. One long mouth is located just behind the long fangs in the center of the face. The long mouth contains 2 rows of fangs as sharp as those exposed at each end of the mouth. It is known to latch on face first, so it can stare directly into the eyes of its victim as it watches their life fade out. Very creepy. The display behind me is the interior of the city office of the Butcher of Butterfly Lane, as he was later known. Shown on this table are the actual repurposed tanning tools that he used. Fancying himself a dentist, he was able to convince the local populace he was legitimate. Using a plant known for its hallucinogenic properties, he was able to cause patients to, in essence, mentally leave their bodies while tied to this chair before you. He would then remove all the victim's teeth. Promising only the repairs to the teeth, it was so much easier to convince them afterward that all the teeth were bad and therefore no work which he could not do need be performed. Human teeth were a prized and highly valued form of keratinoid, similar to bone but with a much sturdier structure, once properly refined. The fraudulent dentist would leave his office early in the day, and that was thought odd by the community, considering how many desperately needed his dental work. He had a nefarious reason for always leaving early, however. He was tainting the town's water supply with ground-up squid innards. The innards still contained the powerful acid the squid used to break down the sharp shells ingested in the feeding cycle, and even once ground up and dispersed, the innards still had enough acidic quality to weaken the teeth of the city dwellers to the point they needed dental work, and thereby supply him with the teeth he very so needed. A packed cargo freighter named the Sea Slicer sailed through a fog-shrouded sea. It lurched high and low in the sea, crates groaning at its sides. On board amongst the crew stood a mere deckhand. As the ship passed through a shimmer, a mysterious event occurred. Every person, in fact every creature everywhere, disappeared, except the deckhand. Calling out for anyone else, he realized he was totally alone. In fear for the crates, the contents, and the ship itself, the deckhand began to panic. He didn't understand the workings of the ship enough to get it under control, and without a crew to pull the sails and manage the ship's wheel, it seemed a task that could not be accomplished anyhow. "Hello? Hello, help!" he pleaded. But his plea was heard by the only other thing that inhabited the world. The figure stood just before him on the other side of the cabin door, but he could immediately tell it was not human. It had no facial features. In fact, it had no features at all. The ship careened out of control, and just as the figure reached through the doorway, the ship crashed on the shore of a desolate island. The deckhand was thrown overboard and into the water just by the shoreline. While running from the ship and figure, the deckhand began to realize he wasn't breathing normally. With every breath he took, it grew shallower and shallower. The further he made it from the figure, the less he could breathe. The world grew darker and darker until he finally went unconscious. The deckhand awakened to find himself all the way back where the voyage began. But the cruise ship and cargo were never seen again. They say the shimmer figure waits just over the shimmer for its next crew. Will you be the only one it spares, or will you never be seen again? This display is a donated item. We ask that you stand back, away from the chicken. This chicken was raised with a taste of death in its mouth. It is not interested in berries or breeding, only death. In the process of training this chicken for battle, it was starved down to its ultimate fighting weight. But it broke free, and it supposedly killed 37 people without even making a sound. It has the ability to move without making noise, and it prefers waiting until nightfall to become most active. In an attempt to appease the chicken and its taste for human, we line these troughs with food, preferably elephant marrow, and then each of these mutes here has volunteered to take turns sleeping in the meat in order to possibly flavor it, in order to hopefully keep the chicken satiated and as calm as we can. We are attempting to keep it here so it will not strike again.
Oh, good old Cluck Norris. I'm glad it's calmed down finally.
I think he's just gotten used to us. You know, we're doing the feeding, so of course he's satisfied with us. We're only helping.
He's still got the flaming red eyes.
Well, yes. Careful not to fall into the pit. In the display below is the horror of Treacle Trench. The sweet name Treacle Trench belied the true nature of the area. A giant relative of the eel, this monster would grasp onto anything in its reach with the pinchers lining its body. The pinchers operate in such a way that once they tighten down, they're almost impossible to loosen. This beast, as it approached its victim, would rattle the pinchers, making a clangorous noise, which would serve more as a victory chant than as a warning. For once the clanging was heard, it was already far too late. Once latched on, the beast would spin over and over, dragging its victim deep underwater and shredding flesh from bone.